Last week's episode was all about why $5,000 should be the bare minimum you charge for an elopement. But that might leave you wondering, what does a $5,000 client experience actually look like? So in today's episode, we're breaking that down from what your couples really need and value to why your personality and knowledge are just as important as your photography. So if you've ever questioned whether you're worth $5,000 or more, this one's for you. Welcome to Stoked, the podcast that helps adventure elopement photographers hit six figures and beyond in their businesses without hustling on social media. I'm your host, Megan McPhail, a former burnt-out emergency veterinarian that quit my hard-earned career to become an elopement photographer. Now I'm living a life I absolutely love, full of travel, adventure, and financial abundance, and I am hell-bent on helping you do the same. Are you ready to start booking out your calendar with dream couples in breathtaking locations and feeling genuinely stoked about your elopement photography business, life, and bank account? Then let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's your host, Megan McPhail.
And your co-host, Todd Reedy.
And today's episode is kind of a continuation of last week's episode where we talked about how I really want you charging at least $5,000 per elopement to be a profitable and successful elopement photographer. And I'm sure after listening to that episode, a lot of people were probably like, but am I worth $5,000 or let alone $6,000, $7,000 or $8,000? You know, that's a scary idea. And we should say, first of all, your worth is infinite no matter what, you know, like this idea of whether you're worth it or not, or charging what you're worth, you're worthy, you know, you're worthy of a profitable photography business. But the couples that are hiring photographers at $5,000 and above, there are things that they value that you kind of need to bring to the table. And so the first question I get a lot from photographers is like, what do I add to my packages to justify charging more? Like, should I add an extra engagement session or an album, or should I include film or Polaroids or like a really cool welcome gift or something like that? And the truth is you don't need any of those things. Like Todd and I do not include any of those things. And we're really bad at sending gifts.
We have started just this year implementing, we've been making margaritas, like a bottle of margarita, and giving them. So we do give a gift now.
Yeah.
It's not elaborate, but it is heartfelt. So
yeah, but that's not why people are booking us, because we do or don't give gifts, right?
That is 100% true.
And people aren't going to book you just because you have Polaroids or something. It might be like a nice added bonus, but like a couple isn't going to be like, oh, they've included an extra session or an album. Like, I'm going to spend all this money for them. That's not really what they're wanting. So you don't need to add more stuff because you alone are worth $5,000 and above. Just you. Your personality, the way you see light, the way you photograph things, the way you plan elopements, the knowledge that you have, your unique personality, that's really what the value is. So we're going to go over all of that so you can start seeing that in yourself. So first, you really got to understand where your couples are coming from. They're starting from scratch. They've decided that they don't want to have a traditional wedding. Now they've decided that they want to elope. They value photography. They value the day. They want it to be unique to them and represent their love story. They've maybe even, seen some cool photos on Pinterest and Google or social media and feel inspired by those things. But they've ditched the stress of a wedding, but now they're stressed out about the logistics of traveling to a place they've never been before, potentially. And like, how the heck do they get married out in nature and like have an amazing day? So they can be overwhelmed by this idea of eloping, even though it's so much better and kind of easier and should be less stressful than a wedding day, but they're still stressed out, right? So you being able to relieve some of that stress, help them figure out all of this stuff, the logistics, the timelines, the locations, and all of that, that's like really where the value comes from.
Yeah, and most likely these couples don't have friends or family that have eloped before. It's not like the typical wedding scenario where people can ask like, oh, who'd you use for this vendor? Or would you have any recommendations for XYZ? It's very unique. And so you're going to be the one expert to guide them through this.
Yeah, and they probably have had friends, at least from the couples we work with. So many of them have friends that have had traditional weddings, and they know from that experience that they don't want to do that for themselves, but many of them do not have friends who have also eloped. So they're really coming from a place where they just don't know anything about it. And I like to think of my best friend, Anna, who, like me, was married previously, got divorced, and she always said if she ever got married again, she would elope. And, she comments on my photos and loves certain locations and stuff like that. But when it actually would come to like the logistics, she is totally going to be 100% dependent on me to help her with that. And keep in mind, you're not trying to convince a couple that just wants to elope at the courthouse real quick and get a few photos. You're not trying to convince them to ditch that plan and like book a full day elopement someplace cool. You're trying to connect with the people who have already decided that that's for them, or they are interested in learning more about that, and they already value intention and something meaningful and something adventurous and something beautiful, and they value photography. So remember that these are the people you need to market to. You're not trying to convince somebody who just wants a photographer to show up on the day for an hour or two and then leave and doesn't really need to be involved. Like, you're not trying to convince those couples to hire you and be something more for them.
And you're also not trying to convince just people that are engaged to elope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see often like people post about like 15 reasons to elope or 10 reasons to elope in XYZ location, right?
Or why you love elopements.
Yeah. That's not your job. If a couple is chosen to elope, then your job is to then like provide them the journey the rest of the way. But like getting them to that point isn't your job.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to be basically marketing yourselves to the couples who've already made this decision to elope. They want it to be amazing. They value photography, but now like the next steps are actually kind of stressing them out. They don't know what to do. So couples are going to hire you at these higher prices because your photos are beautiful, for one, but that's like a minor part, I think. Your vibe and your personality is a huge part of this whole client experience. And then your knowledge is as well. So I want you to think of your personality as a huge part of your value, which means you have to share your personality, right? So that people can get to know you and decide if you're the right photographer for them or not. Couples want someone they can trust, that they can hang out with for 8 hours in a day, that they know is going to help them through this stressful process, and that you're going to do it while, becoming friends. Because the couples who want to spend a lot of money on their elopement day, like they truly do want to develop a friendship with you as their photographer. And that's what we want as well, right? So it works beautifully for both of us.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we normally play the photographer, obviously, on that side of that conversation. But a few years back when we eloped, we knew right off the bat who we were going to do for photography. But for videography, we didn't know. And so we kind of went through the process, even though we know the behind the scenes of the thing. But it did take us like several people that we had like video consult calls with to see who was the right vibe. We did the normal thing where we did our research. We found the people and the look and the feel of those videos, but we wanted to get the vibe of like what they would be like. And we found like a couple of people that we really loved their videos, but we got on calls with them and it just wasn't the right fit. Like one guy showed up late and just wasn't that exciting. Another lady that we talked to just like wasn't the person that we wanted to spend this like amazing epic Alaskan adventure with.
Yeah. And
on that day. Yeah.
Nothing against her at all.
It just wasn't the right fit for us for that elopement. And so again, like the vibe, like it may not be like something you put a price tag on, or you can establish beforehand and like have a checklist, maybe, but getting on that call or that consult to like figure out, is this the right photographer or vendor for me? Like that was really important to us.
Yeah, I would say even that our first priority in finding a videographer was their personality, even like over the art of their films, I would say, and their price. We would have paid anything, I think. And yeah, there's like certain videos we appreciated more than others, but like the personality, I think, was the biggest selling point to us. And we ended up picking someone who we had a lot of fun with. So keep that in mind. And then I think the next thing that people struggle with when it comes to personality is like, how do I share my personality? Thinking like it's this crazy thing that they have to do, but it's not that hard, you know? Like, I would think of it as, you know, your personality is a huge part of your client experience, just you being you, the things that you could talk about on a wedding day or on an elopement day. Like, Todd and I aren't big into Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or any of that kind of stuff. And like, I remember recently we were kind of hanging out with a photographer who kept referencing those things. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So if those are important things to you, you should share those things so that couples who also find those things important can relate to you with those things. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy when it comes to your personality. And one of the examples I like to give is like if I were to share 5 just like boring things about a person, you know, like the car they drive, where they went to school, their favorite color, their pets, stuff like that. I'm going to share 5 things and I'm going to see what your vision of this person is. Imagine it's a woman who drives a convertible. Her favorite color is pink. She has like a teacup chihuahua. Her favorite pair of shoes is stilettos. And she went to Harvard Law for school.
I mean, this is very stereotypical, but this is not going to be the photographer that I'm going to choose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's Elle Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
don't even- what's that movie?
Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I literally just listed very basic, boring facts about this person, but you're able to picture a personality and who this was, you know? And then you picture somebody who drives a lifted Toyota Tundra truck, loves the color sage green, owns chickens, backyard chickens. Favorite pair of boots are Blundstones, and drink of choice after a long day is a margarita.
Well, that's perfectly you.
Yeah. Again, I'm just listing boring ass stuff, but you can picture the person, you know, and whether or not you're going to like relate to that person or not. Now, you could also argue that every elopement photographer under the sun probably has Blundstones, but still, like sharing your personality doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could
Yeah,
be
it's just you.
Yeah, it's just you. Don't make it harder than it has to be, you know? Like boring details can still build connection with the right couples. Like they're going to put these pieces together about you and like know whether they think they can get along with you or not. You're not meant to be for every couple. I think that's really what I want to highlight here is that the best client experience that you can provide is for the right couples that connect with you. So if you're not connecting with your couples or you're not giving them the ability to connect with you, you're either going to book the wrong people, in which case your client experience, I mean, booking the right people is what creates an amazing client experience, I think. So you're either going to book the wrong people or you're going to have people that are not willing to pay your prices. So let's talk about how when somebody is booking you at $5,000 to $8,000 for their elopement, they're not just paying you to show up and take pretty pictures and get a welcome gift from you, right? So they are hiring you for your photography, for your personality, but then also your knowledge and how you're going to help make this planning process easier on them and less stressful. So the value that you're bringing to the table as far as knowledge is planning knowledge, location knowledge, permit knowledge, timelines, when the sun rises and sun sets, vendor suggestions, stuff like that. So let's say your couple values privacy, but the location that they found on Pinterest or that they're bringing up to you is a place that's like super packed at sunset. Your value is in being able to be like, hey, recognizing that they value privacy and suggesting something at sunrise and educating them on that. Or eloping on a weekday, your knowledge about how to elope and being able to help them through the process, learn about them and what they want, because every couple is so unique in what they want, and then basically building a day around that. People will pay big bucks for that. Like going back to our couple who only booked us for 4 hours but still paid us $6,000. It was easy for us because they told us what they wanted. They told us the type of views, the type of trees, that they wanted a lake, waterfalls, aspens, evergreen, all this stuff. And like, I knew immediately the perfect location for them. It happened to be a place that I know like the back of my hand. But for them, me knowing about this place and feeling comfortable in this place and having shot there a million times, they loved that. So if you've already planned elopements, photographed elopements and stuff like that, and you're still charging less than $5,000, I really want you to lean into sharing your personality and knowledge and upping your prices, because people will pay it. There are tons of people out there that will pay $5,000 and above happily, but they need to be marketed to, they need to be sold to, they need to learn more about you and connect with you. And for the folks that are listening and you're like, well, I've never planned or photographed an elopement, like, how am I going to sell people on working with me when I don't have this knowledge yet? My response is to get that knowledge. So the biggest thing that you can do to get that knowledge and feel more comfortable taking a couple out into the wilderness, essentially, and giving them an amazing day and knowing about these locations is to get your boots on the ground. Again, we're being paid the big bucks because we don't just swoop in, shoot something, swoop out. We know the places that we shoot. We've become experts in them, and you can become an expert in these locations without having shot an elopement there before. So that just means like walking the trails, understanding when places are busy and when they're not, understanding the parking situations, the bathroom situations, the permit situations. These are all things that you can do. And one of my favorite things to do is location scout like this as an elopement photographer to gather this knowledge. We do a lot of, if we haven't been to a place before, we do a lot of kind of online scouting, but nothing beats boots on the ground. So wherever you want to shoot, go there, understand the light, understand the logistics, and then also plan some styled shoots, because if you're creating a timeline for a couple and you're making real decisions and you're walking through real logistics and you're trying to keep this couple happy and engaged while you're taking photos of them for your portfolio, you learn so much and you'll become more confident in your elopement planning abilities. And really, that's where this 5K and above client experience comes from, is like the knowledge of these locations.
And I can speak to this a little bit maybe better than Megan, just because she's been doing this for so long. But I remember when I kind of transitioned into this world and being the videographer, right, I kind of got to tag along, especially when I shot with Megan, that she did all the planning, she did the locations and things like that. But the very first styled shoot that I did, I got my friends and I treated it like an elopement, a paying client, right? Where I made an actual document that was the timeline. I looked at the spots beforehand, and yeah, you can do all of the work beforehand, which is super important. But then having the experience and knowing how to kind of pivot and troubleshoot in real time is priceless. And being able to do that the first time with my friends that had no expectations and were just out kind of messing around, having fun with me while I videoed, that was the scenario that I wanted it to be in. I can't imagine the stress and how poorly it could have gone if it was a paying couple and I was winging it for my first time.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting boots on the ground and doing dry runs and practicing this, it's very important, right? Because this is your couple's one elopement day. It shouldn't be a trial run, or it shouldn't be just winging it. The plan should be there and you should have backups. But it just takes time and experience to build that confidence.
Yeah, it totally does. And I think you had a better appreciation for the managing and planning that I do on an elopement day. Because yeah, as a videographer, you just kind of tagged along with me or whoever you were working with. And then here you are having to basically be the MC of the day. And it's hard. It can definitely be hard. And I will tell you that so much of what I've learned is through mistakes and not knowing any different. But at the time, my couples also didn't know any different. So they didn't know anything was wrong or off or anything like that. I always kept my cool and it was fine. But now that I'm so good at planning elopements, tooting my own horn, I look back at some of my old days and I'm like, man, I would have done that so much differently. But yeah, a lot of it is on the job learning with anything, right? A lot of it is a skill set where the more you do it, the better you get at it. But I've always had happy couples, even when I was fumbling my way through all of this, my couples were happy. So that's really the important part. And I think that is going to automatically come along with, couples that are booking you for your personality. I can't stress how important that is enough. So when you ask, what does a $5,000 elopement experience look like? What does an $8,000 experience look like? And it's really you, a photographer with planning skills and a personality that matches your couples, or at least complements it, and you vibe and can be friends. It's a day that flows really well, even if you have to go to backups or plan around weather, or a place you thought was going to be empty now has people or whatever. It's because you guided it, and it's a day that like still flows really well and your couples are happy, even if you had to pivot. And it's a couple who trusts you because they connected with who you are, not just your prices and your photography. They like see you as a real person, and yeah, they trust your process, and they want to get this stress off of them. They want to give somebody a lot of money to basically plan all this stuff so they can just show up on the day and have fun. And that's really what we strive for with our couples, is like, we try to make it as easy for them to just focus on, getting their attire, getting their vow books and rings, getting some florals, and then just showing up on the day and knowing they're going to have the best adventure ever because we listened to them and planned an elopement specifically for them. So that's worth the money.
Yeah, and that's definitely worth $5,000. The peace of mind of your clients knowing that your photographer is going to plan and execute an amazing day and provide photos is worth that for sure.
Yeah, it's worth a lot. And couples out there are willing to pay it. So hopefully this episode helped kind of change your mind about stuff, that so much of the client experience is really just about you. And you can absolutely fake it till you make it. You can gain knowledge. You can research things, get boots on the ground, do styled shoots, all that stuff to build your confidence. But ultimately, couples that are going to pay a lot of money are going to pay it because they really like you as a person, So don't hide yourself and don't be afraid to show who you are and your personality. So hopefully this was helpful. Also, I should probably plug that we have some workshops coming up, because each workshop has 3 all-day styled shoots, like mock elopement days that we're doing. So if you are like, man, I don't know what an all-day elopement looks like, I don't know what you do all day, I don't know how you run it, I know it's not supposed to be an all-day photo shoot, so what does it really look like? You can come join us. So we've got Moab in November of this year.
Which we have 1 ticket left.
Yeah, 1 ticket left. And then for 2026, we just opened the doors to 3 different ones. Alaska is in July, and then Iceland is in August, and Switzerland is in August.
And we'll put all the details in the show notes below.
If you feel like you want to build some knowledge, have some fun, hang out with me and Todd, then you should join us. So cool. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We have a really good one for you guys next week, featuring one of my elopement photographer mastermind members who's absolutely killed it this year. So I can't wait to share more, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Stoked. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend. If you're looking for more inspiring elopement photography content, check us out on Instagram at Megan McPhail. And if you'd like to hear more about my business coaching and how I can personally help you hit 6 figures as an elopement photographer, then check out my website at www.meganmcphail.com.